Good morning, Bananimators. Today, we're going to continue from the rambling mess that was last week's episode into a new episode where I kind of follow through on the follow through. I did not do that. I went off on a tangent, as I am known to do. Let me know if you prefer rambly videos or a more succinct video. Would you rather watch a shorter video that's very to the point, or would you rather me just go on my merry way to who knows where we'll go? It's an adventure. That would be helpful for me. So today I wanted to show a little bit more on follow through because I was doing a lot of overlapping action, like things that are happening at the same time as other actions, like dangly bits or whatever. But eventually that stuff's going to come to a stop. The character comes to a stop, the object comes to a stop, and there's going to be something connected to it that may or may not follow through and go on and do more things. So I've built this little spring box, and it's a very simple thing for anyone to set up. I just have a box attached to a stick and a ball. Maybe I'll make the stick a little bigger. Yeah, stick is fine. And the stick has a deformer because that is the absolute fastest way to do that. So it's just a curved deformer. Inside the curve deformer, I have the curve, which is this top one, connected to a kinematic output. If you're not familiar with this, it means that it cannot deform the object. So if I go and connect this to the curve, when I deform my stick, it will distort the ball. But with the kinematic output, I can move it and it won't distort the ball. There are some fancy stuff in the newest version, in Harmony 20, that you can do even more with this, but I'm using 16, so this is what we're working with. Right, so that's our little box ball spring. So what we can do with this is just practice follow through. Or we can practice overlapping action. So you could do a little ball bounce with your box, or a box bounce. Beginner friendly little exercise. So let's just say we want our box to take half a second to shoot across the screen. Like that. That's it. That's our whole action. We can make it take a little longer, a little shorter. That's fine. We'll even leave it on ones. And now we have to decide what our stick and ball are doing. Okay, so here's where we go back to the previous episode. Just to recap, the connection here is going to have a say in what happens. So if this connection is loose, I mean, this ball could already be like leaning on the box like this before it even gets started, or it could be leaning this way because it has a loose connection. But for these exercises, we're going to have a stiff connection, so it's like a wire, and then we get to decide how stiff is this wire. Okay, so maybe before we even start, it's kind of a little bit of a floppy wire. Like maybe the ball is a little bit heavy and it just kind of hangs down because it's like a jack in the box. Like it's got a little bit of a hang to it, or maybe it's very, very stiff. So as it goes along, it's going to drag behind a little bit. So here we've got our onion skin on. I love using onion skin mode because then you can decide how far back you're going, how strong it is. Love this thing. So I don't want this first one to be super duper strong. On keyframe 2, let's go in here and see what's happening. My very first frame, I have a keyframe on all of my items. And now on frame 2, I'm adding a shape to this curve. It starts to hang, and then we can decide maybe we want it to hang back even farther as it goes along so that it's getting a little bit farther. Whoop. And then it stops dead. This is another place where you get to play around with these parameters. And so many animators start off trying to animate something cool. They want to animate a dragon. They want to animate a fighter, or like something that is actually interesting. And that's a terrible idea because animation takes a tremendous amount of time. And you need to be focusing on the fundamental principles, not trying to get your drawing looking nice. So something like this, even if you're doing it the classical way, you're hand drawing every frame, hand drawing a ball on a stick is going to be much easier than hand drawing a knight on a dragon's back. Don't do that. Okay, so here we have another parameter. Slow in or slow out. I'm just gonna have it slam. So this thing slams, and then it stops. What is this stick going to do? That depends on what the stick is made out of, right? So we've already decided it's pretty stiff and not very bendy. See, we're not getting a huge amount of bend. So when it stops, boonk, the next frame, we can have it, let's try it. Let's go completely the opposite way. Boof. And then we'll have it most of the way. And then we have it not quite off center. having a little bit of an inconsistency with my height. So what I'm going to do is add a guideline. Don't underestimate your guidelines. Guidelines aren't cheating. They're just going to save you aggravation. Boop. And now I can see how tall it's going to be. Fix it with my guide. Boing. It's super fast. So this stick is very, very rigid. So it's got a little bit of springiness, but it's not keeping on. All right, so let's duplicate this and I'll let you know what that means. And you can start seeing why this is such a good exercise. Hold shift and go straight down that way. It's a very good comparison. And all I'm going to do here is just make each of these animation keyframes. I'm going to put it on 2s and then tween it. Okay, so this is at regular speed. This is at half speed. And let's watch that. All right, so here you can clearly see the difference. Let me just turn off the guides because one's actually connected to the boober. And you can see a big difference. And neither one of these are right. To me, I like the second one better. It has a little bit more springiness, a little bit more personality, but you might see the one in the top one on a show that has very, very punchy timing. So the thing about animation is there's not a correct answer. It's really the right solution for the problem that you're facing. I want you to look at all your favorite shows and think about how much of this stuff is happening. Do characters have little dangly bits that continue on? We worked on Ever After High. The hair was always overshooting the action and flowing around, and it had a lot of follow through. This stuff, the movement of the little character, let's say it's a little robot box friend, he has no overshoot, but the little springy thing has a little bit. So this exercise you can take in a lot of different directions, and it's going to be really valuable because the amount of time you're putting in versus what you're actually learning is going to be, it's going to be a high output of learning volume, if that makes sense. So this next little dude down at the bottom, I want to put an overshoot on the box as well. Okay, so to me it doesn't make much sense for him to slide backwards in this case. Instead, I want him to hit, and then he's going to have a little bit of forward and a little bit of back. Overshoot it a little bit, and then I'm going to take this stopped keyframe here. And you can see it's very important right now that this is not collapsed. If this is closed, you can see the little arrows pointing and none of the stuff is showing below it. Then I'm going to be moving keyframes below the one I'm touching on. So what I'm going to do is open this up, and I'm going to be able to grab this keyframe, hold Control, and then drag it over. So now it's bringing this, but it's the springy stuff is not being affected. I'm not touching any of the stuff down here. All right. So now that one, it's subtle, but the box you can see is overshooting at the top and then settling back. It's very slow, very small. You can exaggerate it. And then instead of being here, let's bring that over here, and we'll bring it back there and then settle it. So now it's overshooting a lot, then it's hitting, it's going back and it's going forward. So it's got quite a bit of jiggle. It even looks too, I'm gonna have to shrink it a little bit because I'm gaining volume. That's how stretched that got. Boink, boink. And there's a huge difference between the jello now and the one above it. So this is a big overshoot here of what we're seeing before. There's a big follow through action of the springy dude, and the box itself is overshooting. You could take it even further. You can have the box nearly tipping over when it stops. So let's take that and go even more bananas. Lift his little butt here. Bring this one down and hide the guide. All right, so now this one's going even more bananas. Kapluk. So this is how you practice this stuff. Don't go doing some guy with dangly old bracers and chains and stuff hanging off of him. This is how you practice it. And now I've done 4 different simple animations, But all of these are the same stick. Like this one's a little bit tighter than this one, but we can go ahead again and move this all over. Let's take the whole caboodle and then we're going to move them over and whoop. I'm going to keep all of the timing, but I'm going to change the springiness. Let's change this one and then we'll tack it on to some other things. All right. The next frame, got my little guide here. Boop. And I'm going to have it super duper flexible here. Whoa. And we're going to keep the arc of this and we're going to have it go down even more. And let's loosen up the bottom spot. Let's boop. So here it's hitting and then see how this is that invisible wall I talk about sometimes where it's coming down and then it's hitting. So here's where we need an overshoot. Boop. It's going to go down further, but then it's going to come back up a little bit. Like it's sprung so much that it's starting to unsproing before it even gets to the end of its thing. So then you can see, whoop. Do you see that arc? Let's clean it up even more, make it arcier. Another benefit of these short little things that you can look at your arcs. Yeah, it's starting to look. And then I'm just eyeballing this. Thinking about how much sproing I want and really getting some curves into this stick. It's got a lot of flexibility and you don't want it to go down as far as it did before, but now there's a little bit of hang, a little bit of drag, and then we'll have a little look. So I just eyeballed this quickly. Blah, blah, blah. So the top two have the same velocity. They both stop dead. But this has a super tight stick and this has a wobbly stick. How much time did that take? Let's take this wobbly stick, take all of this, including the stick, because you can't just copy deformer. It's connected to this stick here. So I'm going to take all three of these, copy, paste special, so that it's being separated from its previous host. And I'm going to plug it in here and connect this ball. Let's get rid of this. We don't need it anymore. And then I can adjust them separately. What I'm going to do, I'm actually going to take this one and make it half of what it previously was. So here we go. Moop, 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 moop. So this one, super duper springy, but resolves that very quickly. This one's got a little bit more dangly wangly. Again, I like the bottom one better than the top one, but who knows? You might need it to come back very quickly for something. It might feel right to do the first one. And let's copy that one and put it on our other two timings to see what that looks like. And then I'll stop because I could do this forever. There's a million materials this little ball could be attached to. All right, so you can see how a very simple exercise can teach you a lot about the things that I'm talking about, the fundamentals of animation, those 12 principles from that super good video that you have to watch. You can look at your arcs, you can look at your timing, you can overshoot, you could undershoot. and it's fun. If you give this guy a little eyeball or you give him little wheels or something, he'd be a little robot friend. Which robot friend do you want to be friends with? I think I like this guy. I like this guy too. I like them all. More is more. And it's just fun to watch. Whee! Blunk, blunk. And you can take it even further. This is just a few. This is just a few things. You could do a million different things. Each of your little strings could be different. You could have it hanging instead of it pointing up. It hangs down like a clock, like a pendulum thing. How many things could you do with this little exercise? A bazillion. And you'll just learn so much more by doing these little things than by doing some big catastrophic thing that makes you realize that animation is the most tedious thing in the world. And it's hard. It just is. So let me know if you guys do this exercise. I love to see your animations, so always feel free to tag me on the social medias. I'm on Twitter and Instagram, but I never look at my DMs on Instagram because I don't know how it works because I'm very old. So Twitter. Tag me on Twitter. All right. So that's it. I gotta edit this because it's a mess. Thanks for dropping by. Like, share, subscribe, all those things the internet people ask you to do. And I will see you in the next video.